the society in general that has an imbalance, that still hasn't rectified the desire to receive, the desire to give to others. And we haven't yet fully rectified it. That's why we're still in phase 2 right now. And none of us have rectified it. Even the greatest, perhaps a few secret tzaddikim have. But for them, they could be, they might have diseases for other reasons. Again, to heal for the sake of others. There are many explanations, but ultimately, healing and curing will be one and the same.
Does the Ashwag talk about speaking to your organs? I know I've heard this. Actually talk to them, that they could hear what you're feeling and hear what you're saying, to help cure them if they're in not functioning properly.
Sure. There's another lecture. We'll talk about how we have to arrange the communication between our organs, how they're communicating with each other, and to help the process of transforming our body's basic organization of the desire to receive to a body that's focused more on the desire to give. So it will involve changing the communication between different organs. So it's, for example, how the brain, the heart, and the liver communicate with each other, and changing that basic communication between the three will help in our healing process, because it will help in changing the body's orientation of the desire just to receive to the desire to impart and to give to others. It's a very interesting lecture in learning how to orient our brain, the heart, and the liver. And then the three will be communicating in the most effective and efficacious way, in the most healing way. And then the heart, for example, will really function at its best when we change its orientation. Most of us think that the heart is only about giving. No, the heart could be a very selfish organ. It really depends on how the brain and the heart are communicating. If the brain focuses the heart, then the heart can really function at its best, the way it was supposed to function. And what's that? Remember that there's diastole in the heart and there's systole, right? There's a receiving, and then there's a contraction. Diastole is the filling, and then there's the giving, right? The heart has to function in a way where it's desiring to receive in order to give, in order to be in a relationship with another to give. And it's not always in that state. The heart has to be aware that there's another in the world. The heart could easily make the mistake in thinking that it's the only thing in the world, that it's only the heart, and it objectifies the world into its own, into what it wants to objectify the world into. Mm-hmm. And that's why you can't clearly see the other person for who they really are. They objectify. They objectify. And therefore, the heart is then basically not giving to anyone. It's not functioning the way it's supposed to function, as both expressing diastole and systole. And when it does, that's when the power of the heart really can be experienced. But the brain has to organize the heart in a particular way. And then the heart then could then speak to the liver in the appropriate way. And now there's been many studies to show that the brain and the heart are in direct communication in a bidirectional way. It's not just that the brain sends messages to the heart, but the heart also sends messages back to the brain through magnetic and electrical impulses. So it's a very interesting communication system between different organs.
Maybe we'll call it a night.
One other, I learned many years ago that there was a book of refuah that was buried by the rabbis. Did you ever hear this before?
Yeah.
I might have mentioned this to you, which basically the book had every cure for every disease.
Right. So the question is exactly, why did the rabbis, why did they bury this? So that the right, well, yeah, so that the real message of the Torah about healing is not confused with a bunch of different herbs and natural compounds that can also help the body heal. So that people don't think, well, oh yeah, Torah is trying to teach us that healing comes from this book, as opposed to the recognition that all healing comes from God, period. And our part in it is transforming ourselves into becoming like God. That's all. That's the healing message of the Torah in regards to healing. It's not Chinese medicine, it's not Ayurvedic medicine, and they concealed anything that might confuse the issue, that might in any way dilute the message of Judaism in regards to health and healing. And that's it's very simple. It goes back to what we originally said, is that it's about the transformation of the desire to receive for ourselves alone to the desire to receive in order to impart to others and to improve the lives of others.
I think they were also concerned that people would do anything they wanted to do, knowing that they could be healed for every disease.
Yep.
That's one of the other reasons they buried the book, and they decided not to put it out there.
That's right, because ultimately that's not what real healing is about. It's not really about taking this vitamin or this supplement or this herb or this medication. That's not really getting to the causes and the source of disease in the first place. And again, it's about changing the processes, the social, psychological, and spiritual processes that have overpowered our own internal workings and have overpowered our collective ecology and the way we relate to the world and to each other. So it's ultimately a change in consciousness that will be the source of all of healing.
Right, but if someone is ill, they might not have that ability and might need that, help.
Absolutely.
If they want to go on.
100%.
But they need a doctor who's going to honor what you just said.
You need both. You need everything. I mean, of course, another main focus of medicine in the Torah is to relieve suffering. That's also another main purpose of medicine, of modern medicine, of medicine in general, is not so much to heal disease, but it's to alleviate suffering. All of medicine is about alleviating suffering, which is a commandment of the Torah. But it's not about curing. None of these medicines or herbs are going to cure. It's the purpose of to use them is to alleviate the suffering.
So one, rather than bury the book, one having the book, relieve all the suffering.
Well, again, they didn't want. They feel that the best way to alleviate suffering is to transform our consciousness.
Not for the one who's sick.
Right.
The decision then that was made was that we don't. That ultimately that what will expedite the healing process is by not confusing the message, by not watering down the message, and thinking that healing comes from this book as opposed to a change in consciousness.
But again, the fellow who was sick, and that's not his thought process.
But that's true. But think about how many lives will be saved and how much quicker suffering will end if the book was concealed and the true message gets out.